Denmark's parliament is debating a proposal that would empower authorities to confiscate valuable belongings to refugees and use them to pay for the refugees' stay in the country. Shocked asylum seekers say the proposed law is a bad idea. However, Danish immigration minister has defended the proposal as being in keeping with the Danish norm that if you can pay for yourself, you must do so. Denmark is one of several European Union countries trying to discourage migrants from seeking asylum on its territory. More than 21,000 asylum seekers entered Denmark last year, up from close to 15,000 in 2014. The government expects around 25,000 people to claim asylum in 2016. Now, for more on the plight of asylum seekers, Joel Millman, spokesman of the International Organization of Migrations, joins me live via Skype from Geneva, Switzerland. Hi, Joel.
Hi.
Now, we get the sense that things are just getting worse for refugees. What are some of the challenges you have observed that they have to deal with in 2016 in Europe?
Look, I don't think things are getting worse. I think it's been a complicated situation for the last year. We expect the winter months to be difficult with the weather and the conditions of the actual route to Europe. But you know, some of the things coming out these last few weeks have all been discussed for years now. Different regulations, different manner that asylum seeking should take place. You know, there's a lot of speculation and a lot of polemic floating around. We know, for example, that Germany released its asylum seeking figures last week, and almost 30% of all the asylum seekers were Europeans themselves, mostly from the Western Balkans. So the idea that this is an out-of-control process that's being driven by refugees from far away is something that we really yet to untangle. And we think that countries deserve time to work their way through the system, and media outlets, including ourselves, should not fan the flames and act like the panic is going on, because we don't think it is.
Yeah, but Joel, you see, the concern has been expressed even by the Pope himself, who was saying, hey, things may be so difficult, but please maintain the compassion that Europe has always had for immigrants. Do you get the feeling, or is that a perception we're having, that the compassion is kind of waning?
It's always been a struggle, but we think Europe's conscience and the world's conscience has always come through. You know, we've heard all kinds of things over the last 12 months. Although a year ago there was a strong lobby in UK to say let the migrants drown, because then they'll stop coming. And of course we overcame that sentiment. We've seen heroic examples for mostly Angela Merkel in Germany, opening their country to hundreds of thousands of people. So of course, there's always a tendency to focus on conflict. The New Year's Eve revel that led to several dozen that we know of, dozens of cases that are being investigated by police of pretty bad behavior by people who may or may not have been asylum seekers themselves. That's generated a huge amount of press, and in some ways an outsized press. We don't think this is going to change the overall progress that Europe's making towards integrating these people.
There was a meeting late last year between European leaders and African leaders on how they can stem the flow of migrants from African countries. What is the progress in that direction?
Well, we're not sure that stemming the flow is a goal that's going to bring satisfaction to either side, but we think managing the flow and finding ways to match people with job demand, perhaps temporary visas, perhaps families that share visas among several adult family members who would work on a rotating basis. There's lots of ways of keeping people employed in Europe and yet still supporting large families abroad that would make it less likely that the entire family would have to migrate, as we saw last year. You know, the Gulf countries, the Petro-Emirates have done this for decades with people in the Middle East and throughout the world. So it's not a model that's unknown to the world, and it can be applied here. But we stress always that there is a natural marriage between the job-seeking youth of these countries and the job demands, labor force demands of the developed world, and it's just a matter of managing that marriage properly.
Well, very quickly, what do you project for 2016?
Well, we see no reason why the numbers couldn't remain as high as they were last year. Of course, a year ago, if you'd asked me that, I would have been skeptical, but we saw how efficiently the migrant movement industry, if you will, the trafficking or the smuggling industry, adapted to the demand. And so we know that there's no reason to expect it to diminish naturally. Of course, a peace settlement in some of the conflicted countries is the most important step, and we really need to see progress there. But absent those things, I see no reason why we can't see a repeat of last year's migrant flows, possibly even greater flows.
Joel, thank you very much for your perspectives.
Sure.
Well, Joel Millman is the spokesperson of the International Organization of Migration, speaking to us live via Skype from Geneva, Switzerland.